Welcome back, everybody, to NVision Self. Today we're going to talk about, let's talk about something a little bit more lighthearted. Let's take a step away from the business and leadership, and let's talk a little bit more about personal development, personal growth. Let's talk about where it can all start. Where can you help if you're a parent? Where can you help your child? So let's talk about growing yourself, or the moment you realize that you are stuck, and the moment you realize that you need to, what you may think, get out of a hole. So as Tony Robbins says, life gently pushes you when you feel uncomfortable, or when life realizes that the current course you're on, it's not the course you need to be on. So life drops subtle hints. It could be not enough money in your bank account, or you are not happy with your current employment or what you're doing. So life gently nudges you first. Now I'm paraphrasing Tony Robbins, but later on life pushes a little harder. And then a little harder, because a lot of us are hard-headed or too afraid. And then eventually you get this crisis. And that's pretty much life is telling you change, or I wouldn't say die or perish. Stop surviving, start working on thriving. And at that moment you have to make a choice, because now you're at a crisis in your life. Do you change or do you not? And a lot of the time, I know we like personal stories. So my personal story for this particular moment came at a time where I was listening to Tony Robbins, and he said, if you need to make a change, make it now. And it's very tough, right? You're sitting there in your car and you're thinking, how can I make this change? Sometimes you just got to do it, right? Like Nike. So my personal story, I was sitting in a car. I was driving a Chrysler Fifth Avenue, like a really long red car. It was old, I'd say falling apart, barely breathing. And I remember finishing listening to something like that, and I had to get out of the car to go to work. And I remember the doors were locked, and as I'm sitting inside and I pulled the handle to get out, the handle breaks. It's just an old car, the handle breaks. And at that point, something we'll talk about, I make a choice and I went, this is enough. It was a lot more colorful than what I'm telling you, what I said, but I told myself this is enough. And at that point, I remember I called my mom and I said, yeah, I'm going to go buy a brand new car. This is ridiculous. To which she answered, just like every parent, how? You don't have strong enough credit history. I don't think you're making enough money. To which my response were, you're going to co-sign for me. I will figure everything out, but you're going to co-sign for me. I can no longer do this. This is, no. And this is how I ended up getting a new car, which gave me absolutely no problem. And that was a big turning point in my life. Because afterwards, I picked up a book, and a very interesting book. It's called Psychology of Winning by Dr. Whitley, pardon my pronunciation. And what it talks about is something very important. Beginning to the middle of the book, it talks about something that happens inside of us that's called a judge and a robot that is ingrained in our being. And when we are born, when we are young, the judge and the robot, they work together. They high-five each other, so to say. Because as you are discovering the world and you're discovering the things around your world, the judge and the robot look at it this way. You try to touch a hot stove. So the judge goes, I don't know if you should touch it. We should definitely touch it because we don't know what it is. And as you touch it, it's hot, you pull your hand away. And the judge goes, oh, okay, well, when the stove is on, it's hot. And he sends that information to the robot to kind of compile that list of information. And then you touch it again. Because even though your parents say you didn't learn after the first time, no, you didn't learn after the first time. Stop using that statement. That statement is stupid. So you touch it again, and maybe the third time. But what happens After the second or third time, the judge goes, yeah, we're never touching this again. So it subverts the process of actually judging your action and sends it straight to the robot, and the robot now takes over. And when you see a hot stove and you go, nope, not touching it. Good system, it should work. And it does work with a lot of the things. However, as we are growing up, we keep hearing things from those that are in our vicinity, our family, our friends, the TV, the shows that we watch. And as we watch these things, our judge passes this information over and over and over and over to our robot. And then the robot slowly starts to take over. To a lot of people, let me break it down like this. Your robot kind of becomes your subconscious, okay? And your judge takes a back seat. As a parent, personally as a parent, and I'm reaching out to other parents, help your children. There's a lot of time when we're parent, quote unquote, we're tired. I believe that word should be removed from your vocabulary. Never tell your child you're tired. But when we are physically exhausted and your child comes to us and they go, Mom, Dad, I drew this picture, or Mom, Dad, could you help me? A lot of the time my response is emotional. I was like, oh, not right now. Just, wait. And over time, after 2-3 times, your child stops asking because his judge goes, I'm just going to hand this to the robot because this is no longer a viable option. And when your child thinks, I need to go ask mommy or daddy, his robot goes, no, that process doesn't work. So just don't ask, just do. And then the parents sit there going, oh my goodness, why did Johnny not ask and did A, B, and C on his own? Because you have conditioned. You have conditioned that child's subconscious to do that. And here's the scary part about this. This goes all the way into their adulthood. And only when they're presented with an opportunity to see it, step back, reevaluate, can they stop breaking. Because at that point, you have to literally force your subconscious to come out and be your consciousness. Meaning you have to make the decisions again. You have to force yourself to make the decisions. And that sucks. That's terrible. Imagine that when your child tells you their dreams. And at first, up to 5 or 6 or 7, you're like, oh, this is cute. This is great. Timmy wants to be an astronaut or wants to be a soccer player or a singer or a model or whatever, whatever that child wants. And as they get older, you start hearing things like, well, stay in school, or how about you get good grades first, or why don't you, at least clean your room, or things like that. Right? So what your child becomes now is they take their dreams and the robot goes, the moment they think about their dreams, the robot goes, that's dumb. Don't think about it. Do this instead. And then we're sitting here nowadays in an epidemic of opioids, epidemic of the highest depression that the society has known. And we're going, I don't know how that happened. Really? You are the driver. You literally are driving your children into this. There was a great example. Once again, I present personal examples, so you need to understand. Most people go, you're great with kids. You might have great relationship with your children. And I do, but it takes a lot of work. And a lot of it is touch and go. And a lot of it, my wife and me saying to each other, that was wrong. Please look at it in a different way. So one of the things is my son, for example, he cleans in a particular way. He likes putting things in a particular way. And sometimes the room does get messy and he tries to clean. And it's interesting how he cleans. He just puts things in certain corners. And I remember one day when he cleaned in his own way, I told my wife, the room is really messy. I need to clean it. And my wife, she said, no, he cleaned it. This is how he wants it. And to be honest, Tay, this is clean because it's not messy. And I went, well, my wife is a very neat person. The house is always, when I don't clean something really well, she'll let me know. I let my own consciousness try to show him how I want it cleaned versus this is actually pretty clean, this is good. And the only time we ever help him when it gets really messy and it is overwhelming for him. At that point, I can step in and I can go, hey, buddy, let's clean together. Let me show you when life gets a little rough. I'll be there not to just carry you through this, but to lend you a hand. So now you don't have 2 hands working it, you have 4 hands working on that. So we are training his subconsciousness to go, I can handle a lot of things, but when it gets too much, I need to ask for help. And I can already hear most of the parents and most of the adults screaming at their computer screens, going, well, you are now making him dependent on you. No, you're wrong. You're incorrect. Please pick up 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, because there are 3 levels to a successful, relationship, business or personal or growth-wise. You have your dependence. It's when you depend on somebody to do something for you as a child. There is independent, is when the child starts showing, or you as a person start showing that you could do things on your own. And this is where most of us get stuck on, is dependency and independency. We don't go further. And then you have interdependence. It's meaning you help each other. And this is what we as parents are trying to kids our children. When my son knows he can do it on his own, he does it. When he feels overwhelmed, he goes and asks for help. Ladies and gentlemen, learn to ask for help. We as a society have forgot how to ask for help. Because we're all about, I'm a strong, independent man, I'm a strong, independent woman, I could do this, I could do that, I could do that. And then you look around and you see how another company or another human being is completely and totally kicking the living crap out of you in personal life and everything. And you go, well, it's 2 of them. Right, but they're working together. They work as interdependent. Teach that. Now, there is also a fine line as you go that, because at a certain point your child develops and they get stronger, and what used to be too much for them, they can do it on their own. They may not know that yet, and at that point, please don't go and say, well, sweetheart, you can do this on your own now. No. Still give them help, but reel back a little bit. When you used to do 60%, I do 50, then do 40, then do 30. And then later on, only help if you want to just spend time. That's what you need to do. This is how I wouldn't say condition, this is how you get your children ready for that life when they finally step out on their own. Remember that. Do not teach your child's robot to completely take over their life. There are so many adults that I know that are so conditioned that they give up on their dreams. When you do something, they go, it's scary. Somebody asked me, Tay, you opened this business. Are you not scared? Ladies and gentlemen, we bought a house last year. We have 3 kids. Am I scared? I am. Let's not use bleep out. I am terrified. But you know what I'm more terrified of? Is dying and going, what would have happened? Well, it's really tough. You're giving up, a set income. Yes, I know. I'm following my dream. Because one day my son or my daughters are going to come to me and they're going to say, Daddy, and they're going to look at my wife and they're going to say, Mommy, hopefully at 18 they call us Mom and Dad, but they'll say, Mom, Dad, should I try this? I'm afraid. Let's use logic, make sure it's something, good, not like, let me try drugs. That's stupid. But Mommy, Daddy, can I try this? I'm worried, I'm afraid, I'm giving up certain security. And if I say, yes, you should try this, and my wife, same thing, she goes, yes, try this. My child can't look at me and go, well, how can you give me this advice? You never tried anything in your life. Now they go, great, you tried. And regardless, fail or not fail or what's happening right now, you are able to say, I tried, I got out there. So please, ladies and gentlemen, develop that. And if you're already in your, 19, 20, 21, 22, and you're realizing your robot is completely taking over your life, stop for a second. Start thinking about every decision you make, no matter how menial, meaning what music you listen to, meaning what food you eat. Yes, start with small things. Step back and look at yourself and go, no, I'm going to make this decision about the things I do next. Let's move to the next part of it, which is very interesting. So as you're walking in your house, this happens to everybody. This happens to me. From what I understand, as a third-degree black belt with 20 plus years of martial art experience, over 12 to 14 years of teaching, I should be, as a child, as a cheetah. I'm not. I'm really clumsy. So I hit things all the time, like with my toes. My toes, my feet, I stumble. And you have this immediate response. It could be an obscenity. It could be you kind of like, oh, I hate my life, whatever it is. But you have stubbed your toe on something and you hate it. So what we have action, and then we have, bam, response to the action. This is not true. So what we have is an action, and then there's this small part, a very small part, that's called a decision that you make right now, how to answer to that action. And then comes the outcome. Most of us, because of the robot that's here, miss that little part. Start right now thinking about what decision you make on that. So you stub your toe, right? Stop. For a second, just stop. Just kind of grit your teeth and go, all right, there might be kids around. Is this really the path I need to go through and kind of screw up my day for the rest? No, just go, I stubbed my toe. I was clumsy. Keep my eyes open. Let's get a little bit more finesse and pizzazz in what we do. And now the outcome is very different. And that goes with everything. A lot of people say one door closes, many open. Well, that also happens when you look at the decision. And that's where we're looking at, ladies and gentlemen. Let's say you got let go from your employment. Don't immediately respond. Think about it. Go, okay, I could look for something else. Maybe start something new. Because most of us immediately go to the negative. I remember when I was working at, let's say, a child, facility where kids get to run around and have fun and crazy and eat pizza, all right? And I remember my district manager, he came in, he was a terrible leader, but I remember we got into it pretty heavy. This was right before I was planning already to leave. And I remember he was incredibly disrespectful, hitting things and throwing things, but he did it in a way where it was off camera. When if you look on camera, you didn't see it because you've seen the angles of the camera. And I remember one of my assistant managers standing there and going, "Hey, I noticed you tense up for a little bit and then relax. What were you thinking?" By the way, if this district manager is watching this show, I was thinking about kicking your head into the oven. But thanks to this whole robot and judge, I was able to stop for a second and go, why am I paying attention to this? This is just a small part. I'm not going to put my life here. I make a decision that I'm going to leave and leave this behind. Let him yell, let him talk, let him try to get a reaction out of me. That ain't going to happen. And at that moment, I felt release. If you could say, well, this works for you, not at all. A long time ago, I used to work for another martial art school, and I got to meet a lot of very, very great people. And one of them, they had a student, and he had an older sister who played tennis. And I hope they're getting to watch this. And I remember she was getting a scholarship into a couple of colleges. And I remember the mom sharing with me, because we all had a pretty good relationship. I mean, we've known each other at that time for 3 to 4 to 5 years. And I remember She's telling me, oh my goodness, she's freaking out. It's freaking me out. We're tense. We don't know what school to go to. And I remember calling, this future college student, and she went, Tay, I have no idea what to choose. And I remember telling her this. I said, okay, stop. Are you going to play tennis for the rest of your life? Is this going to be a career decision? And then it was silence, and it was like, no. I said, okay, great. So you're literally going to college, full ride on tennis, but you're not going to continue this through. You're getting a full ride based on tennis, which is great. So now that you know that you're not going to do this for the rest of your life, make the decision on what school you like better. Not which has the better tennis program, but the one that you like better because you're still choosing your major. So just pick the school that you like more. You're getting in for free. Take the tennis out of the equation. You just know you're going to have to play because you're getting that full ride. And it was dead silence on the phone, and she went, that's really simple. I was like, well, that's you making that decision. So stop with the response right off the bat. Think about it. Just make the decision before you make the response. 2 days later, I get a phone call from the mom going like, what did you tell her? Thank you so much. Everything is good now. She made the decision within a second. And certain things you just can't explain. But once again, thanks to all this personal growth, I was able to go, we have a thing happening here. Before we do our response, because usually it's caked with emotion, let's stop for a second, think about it, make that decision. Sometimes you have to think about it really quick, especially when it comes to kids, especially your children. Remember, when you make those emotional decisions for them, it trains that robot. And then we sit there, parents, and wonder, we go, why is my child acting this way? Well, what have you done up to this point? What expectations did you set for it? It's been one of the things that my son, we tried as hard as we can, because in his head, when he did something that wasn't, I wouldn't say wrong, but not right, he would stop what he was doing, goes like, no, that's not right, let me try it again. That's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong. And me and my wife realized, because as he was growing up, there was a lot of, no, that's wrong, no, that's wrong. And at a certain point, I went, this needs to stop. We're going to break him. Took us 2 years. He's 6. It took us, wow, most people like, you forgot your son's age. He's 6. It took us 2 years to break that habit. Now, if he doesn't do something right, he just goes, I'll try again, or maybe I'll try to fix it. And when it's a little thing, he goes, that was wrong, but it still works in the great scheme of things. That's okay. I'm going to go do something more important right now. Remember, don't condition your kids. Don't break them. How do I know if I'm conditioning my kids wrong? Look at yourself. Look at what you were conditioned. I guarantee you, our parents' generation didn't read these books that we have right now. Our parents' generation didn't step back. They were just working. And they did it because they felt like it was the best thing to do. Even though they thought it was the best thing to do, but look at us now. I read a funny post, a parent's asking, why are the kids depressed so much these days? And a kid answers, well, we're working to death. Our planet is essentially dying. And our economy, like actual economy, is going down the toilet. And you're asking me why I'm depressed? And then the parents answers, well, it's probably because of all the iPhones, right? Because it's always because of the computer or because of the video games or because of a TV, because we have to rationalize that it's not our fault that we have conditioned everything around us to what it is right now. God forbid we take responsibility for ourselves, right? Don't do that. Don't be that person. So once again, guys, if you have children, start working with them, okay? Stop conditioning them. And if you are a young adult, if you are one of my listeners that's younger and you guys are trying to, just start stepping back, start looking at your decisions, turn off the robot. Your robot should only be turned on in life or death situations, such as, saber-toothed tiger, run, okay? That's good. System works. Hot stove, don't touch it. I don't even need to think about that. Good system. But don't break the system. So once again, guys, start working on yourself. Enjoy yourself. The next show, we're going to work on something really, really special. Maybe the next one or the next after. We want to delve into fitness industry. I have something special going on. I had a great idea about it. So hopefully I can bring it to you next week or a week after next, but it's going to be an awesome show. So once again, if you guys have questions, if you guys want to have a discussion, please do not hesitate to post a comment, leave a like. I'd like to ask everybody who listens to this podcast, guys, please share. I want other people to chime in and say something. In the end of the day, keep getting better, and I'll see everybody on the mats.